Hello and welcome to our Poetic Hour. This is the hour when we discuss poetry. Remember, this is a program that tries to demystify poetry. There is a belief that poetry is difficult, but again, I know that poetry is not difficult, especially when you know how to deconstruct or demystify poetry. So in this lesson, we have a poem here titled Listen. This poem is written by Susan N. Kiguli, and that is the poem that we are going to discuss. Remember that we have been talking about how to appreciate poetry. I have taken you through the processes of appreciating poetry. This is just one of the lessons that I would wish that we listen to and probably watch and understand poetry. Listen. I wish your trembling lips would part and utter a coherent word. For many a cause of trembling there is aversion and pepperish that taste in the mouth, or honey melting on the tongue, setting your taste buds tingling. I wish the sonorous tone of your voice would at least alter its pitch, so I could detect the varied tensions and know which note you are playing, know whether to weep or dance. I wish the pages of your heart would not stick together stubbornly, but would open one by one. I want to read the letters printed there and be my own impartial judge. I wish that your mind, your soul, would not close like a cabbage head, but would open fully like a human, like a banana leaf, and swing and sway in my wind, so that the inner secrets of your being would become mine too. So that is the poem by Susan N. Kiguli. And we want to discuss this poem vis-a-vis the subject matter. And kindly be our guests. Now, number one is that when you read this poem, you realize that it is a very metaphorical poem. It is not an open poem. And it begins with, I wish your trembling lips would part and utter coherent word. For many a cause of trembling, there is a version of pepperish taste in the mouth, or honey melting on the tongue, setting your taste buds are tingling. So what is it that the poet means in stanza number one? He's mentioned the lips, and if you look at it, she talks about lips that sometimes speak pepper, but sometimes speak honey. So there is that bit of hypocrisy coming in, that sometimes what the mouth says is not what it means, because you would want to know when you mean honey or when you mean pepper. And therefore, this is the first understanding that we need to be aware of. The second stanza talks about, I wish the sonorous tone of your voice. So it's now not the lips, but the voice. So what does the voice do in the second stanza? Would at least alter its pitch, so I could detect the varied tensions, the various meanings of your voice. You know, there are people that what they say, their voice is different totally from what they are saying. So I could detect the varied tensions and know which note you play, know whether to weep or dance. So sometimes someone might be lying to you, might be a hypocrite, so that you think that you're dancing together, yet the very person is actually stabbing you at the back. So this is a poem that discusses the human hypocrisy. Now look at the third stanza again, that I wish the pages of your heart. So now the next area of metaphor is the heart. So the heart stands for what the person really means and what the person is in this context. Would not stick together stubbornly, but would open one by one. I want to read the letters printed there and be my own impartial judge. So you would want someone who, what the person keeps in the heart is a truth, but not a situation where what is in the heart is not what is expressed by the person. And lastly, when you read through the last poem, talks about I wish that your mind, now it takes us to the mind, your soul would not close like a cabbage head. Look at the use of that simile, that your mind would not close like a cabbage head. So you think that the person has given you his mind, yet his mind is not with you. So that is a form of hypocrisy, but would open fully like a banana leaf. Again, another simile, when it talks about would open fully like a banana leaf, the comparison between banana leaf and the mind opening in this case is an indirect comparison. And sway in my wind, so that the inner secrets of your being would become mine too. So what we need to do here is to analyze each and every stanza. Like in stanza 1, it talks about the lips. So if a candidate writes that the persona wishes that the person is talking about says what he means, then that is a tick. In the second stanza, he might talk about that the voice, the tone of his voice should also reflect what he means. And there should not be anything hidden in the voice or in the tone of what the person says. That is another tick. Then the third one is about the heart. So he wishes that the person should open up so that what is in the heart is also opened and someone can easily see the truth, but not something that is hidden in the heart, but not what the heart holds. And finally, he talks about the soul and the mind, and he wishes that the mind would open and not close like the banana or like the cabbage head, but should open like the banana leaf. So you see, when you analyze this poem, even by the use of the stanza, what comes out is what we call the human hypocrisy. And that is what is expected. And remember, the subject matter is not something that you write in one sentence and you think you have explained the subject matter. We would want a situation where the candidate is able to go stanza by stanza and explains each and every stanza in his or her own words. And that is what would score at the end of the day. Thank you very much. We hope that you have enjoyed our poetic hour. And remember, we are discussing the subject matter. And we are going to read quite a number of poems to illustrate the issues of the subject matter. Be blessed.